It is Wednesday, my dudes, and you know what that means. That's right, we are once again here in my theme park in Planet Coaster, which is called Velocity Lake, making another video. And in today's video, we're not really going to be focusing on the Street Fox coffee shop. This is just a little bit of extra footage I'm sticking at the beginning of the video. Today's video, we'll be working on the rest of the RMC Peninsula. The Scream, I keep calling it a peninsula. It's not really a peninsula, just the riverbank aside from the main island that currently only has a couple of like mediocre flat rides, a couple of shops, and a really good RMC. We could probably flesh it out a bit and put some good, like thrilling flat rides next to the RMC to really sell it as the thrill seekers paradise of the park. Wow, that's actually quite a good name for the peninsula. If it weren't for the very two boring rides next to the, the two kiddie rides on the island, it would have been good. So I've gone from peninsula, and now I've gone to island, whatever. Here you can see me building the steps for the Street Fox coffee shop. You may recall way back in the day when I built this place that I wasn't happy with the way the steps came out. I kind of made them, it was either out of wooden planks or the coaster support pieces. I basically made them myself, and I didn't really do a very good job, and I was a bit like, whatever, we'll deal with it some other time. And for the first time in Lowne history, we actually ended up dealing with it later on, which is now for us. You see, these stair pieces here weren't actually in the game, the ones that I've used now. They weren't actually part of the game when I built the Street Fox coffee shop. At least I don't think they were. I'm pretty sure they came out as part of the Ghostbusters pack, or, some other DLC pack that wasn't present in the game when I built the Street Fox coffee shop. And it was a bit of a weird bit of footage I don't really know what to do with, so I just stuck that at the beginning of today's episode, which was probably not a great idea. I mean, last week's episode was only like 15 minutes, and now we've got a whopping big 25-minute episode-ish, I think. I don't know. I've kind of got loads of episodes queued up in Vegas, and I'm basically just doing one mega commentary and then splitting them up into episodes. I mean, I could release the whole thing as like one giant 3-hour-long video, but I feel like that would get very boring, and I don't want to just burn out my channel with, we'll just make one 4-hour-long video every month, and that's it. Probably not the best thing to do when it comes to the YouTube algorithm. Praise be, of course, unto the YouTube algorithm. So I started off by building a sort of very basic, sort of rough sketch, not sketch, but a basic layout of what the peninsula is going to be like by just drawing a wiggly line using the paths. I'll have a nice curving path. I always prefer the curving paths to, just straight blocky ones, because they look a bit more interesting, a bit more aesthetically pleasing, and they do work a lot better in terms of Planet Coaster's pathing tool. Like, make no mistake, no path works well with Planet Coaster's pathing tool. It's pretty abysmal, but it does seem to sort of favor making curved pathways. So you can see me there, actually. I was just playing around with a few different flat rides. I eventually, as the title and thumbnail will hopefully suggest, or possibly, I don't know what the title and thumbnail are going to be, but maybe the title and thumbnail would have suggested it. We're going to go with the Hammer Swing flat ride, which I always found a really awkward flat ride to build and place, because it has this massive footprint, and it's quite an awkward shape footprint at that as well. I've only ever built one once before, and that was in my ancient series of Mirror Lake, which was not a very good park by my standards today. My standards today are still not that great, so you can imagine how poor Mirror Lake was. Although, I still have a soft spot for that park nonetheless. But now, when I built it in Mirror Lake, I wasn't very good at the game. I just had a tendency to just plop flat rides down, join them up to the main path, and called it a day. I wasn't very good at sort of realistically integrating flat rides in with the rest of the scenery and making it all look seamless, rather than just loads of like randomly placed rides with just paths connecting them to a central kind of bus path, if that makes sense. I have no idea what I'm talking about. What I can talk about here, though, you may have noticed I placed loads of benches along the perimeter of the path, on the outside of the path rather than the inside of the path, and then I clipped these concrete plinth pieces over the top of the benches, and I made very sure that those concrete sort of borders to this now planter section, see, just there actually, I didn't have there was no soil piece that fitted that corner, but I took a art shape, coloured it brown, and I think it blended in quite well. No, what I did with the walls of this little planter here is I made them ever so slightly taller than the height of the benches. Now, the way this would work now is that when guests come along this part, they will sit on the benches, but it will look like they're sitting on the walls of the planter. And this is a little trick that this is not something I came up with. I originally saw this on the subreddit and have subsequently seen a few other builders use as well. I do kind of miss Planet Coaster content from other creators, because obviously a lot of my contemporaries have moved on to Planet Zoo. I know they've said it's only temporary, but, I miss them. So here I am trying to pull the weight of a lacking Planet Coaster, I don't want to say lacking Planet Coaster community, but the Planet Coaster content creation on YouTube has certainly been slowed down to a degree by the release of Planet Zoo, which is a shame. There were a lot of series I was enjoying. I still don't really know what the plural of series is. Series is maybe Serai. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. There were lots of Serai that I was watching on YouTube. I mean, Summerdale Park, Nagali Park. I've forgotten the name of all the others, but there are a few that I was enjoying watching the creation of, which I've been told by the video makers that they're not gone; they are just on hiatus. I can't wait for the hiatus to lift, because God knows I can't carry the Planet Coaster content creation community. Not that I ever represented a significant portion of it to begin with, but here we are. What are we doing here? I'm moving swiftly on. You see, I placed a queue path for the hammer swing, and now I was torn between, do I just have the path be how it be, when you place it in a grid mode, but I thought it would look cooler if we just put a big slab of concrete down in the form of the temple pieces clipped away into the ground, and then we could just build a little, I don't know, cattle grid. Cattle pen probably is a better term to kind of make, I don't know, I thought this looked better than just having a standard path as it would be in Planet Coaster. There we go. Now, I must apologise, actually, later on in this video. I'll tell you when, probably because at that point I'll be off on one of my terrified moments where I've got nothing left to talk about because I've already talked about everything ad nauseum in the entire video. But there was a bit of a moment where the recording crowd, like, I don't want to say that I forgot to record it, because I definitely didn't. I remember the moment. I remember the day very well. I use a thing called NVIDIA Shadowplay, and for some reason, sometimes the footage gets corrupted. I think I'm pretty sure I changed it. Like, I hadn't changed it when I recorded the footage, so I've changed it now. But what it used to be, which is when I think it was like when I recorded this. What a horrible sentence. I'm pretty sure at the time of recording, I had the shortcuts to record things on NVIDIA Shadowplay as Alt F11. Press Alt F11 to start recording, Alt F11 to stop recording. All well and good. However, if you press Alt F10, it won't stop or start recording. It will simply save the last 20 minutes of gameplay as footage. And for some reason, sometimes if you miss, I think this is it. I can't actually remember what causes this problem now. But I think sometimes if you press the save last 20 minutes whilst you're also recording footage, it can just, mess up the footage that you were recording, because it will try and override it or save it as a wrong format and corrupt it. I'm not quite sure. Either that, or it doesn't always save the last 20 minutes as a proper video file. It's all corrupted. It's one of those two. I'm not sure which, but I've since corrected it, like I said in that horrendous explanation earlier. I've now got like a Stream Deck XL, which is basically like a custom macro keyboard, but every single key is like a little LCD screen, so you can have it set to multiple profiles. It works really well. I love my Stream Deck. I would recommend it. It is very expensive for what it is, so I can't recommend it wholeheartedly to everyone, but, if it's the sort of thing you would like, well, if you like this sort of thing, then it's the sort of thing that you would like, and I will leave it at that. You can see me putting this fence that we constructed in the previous episode. I've basically just duplicated it along, and we're just going to basically line the edges of this path, try and make it look a little bit less horrible. Obviously, again, Planet Coaster's pathing tool is anything but horrible, so it's kind of a bit of a job to get things looking as realistic and neat as possible, but I think I did an alright job, and we will continue to flesh out the border of the path as we go along throughout this episode. Placing things like foliage and stuff, clipping into fences, it really does do a good job of masking the imperfections with the edges of your path, as is techniques like this, where you stick a whacking great thick, with two C's there, curb at the edges of the paths, and that just helps to kind of mask the fact that the edge of the path is not perfect and perfectly flush with either the flat ride or other scenery that you're building it next to. And now what I'm doing here is we're just sort of painting the ground, because it wouldn't make sense to have just fresh grass immediately next to the path side. It would probably be a little bit worn down from the construction and the foundation of the fences. So I think it adds a nice little realistic touch, and I'm just playing with various different colorations of the hammer swing. I think I ended up just going straight back to the default colors, or very close to the default colors as well. And there you go. So I hope you agree that I think I did a pretty good job with the actual blending of the hammer swing's footprint to the actual rest of the park. So we've got it overhanging the water slightly, which I think is actually something I really liked. I really liked how that came out, because obviously when you swing out, you're actually looking above. You can look out over the water. Oh, that was kind of a nice little feature of the hammer swing. It's not perfect yet, but I think by the end of this episode, I hope you'll agree that it ended up looking pretty nice. And here's a super lazy custom fence. I think it came out looking a lot better than it really deserved to, which basically is taking the stock fence and just stacking it 3 times, like clipped within each other. So take it, kind of offset it down, and then it creates this nice sort of custom looking fence. I don't really want to call it a custom fence, but it's not there in the game just as a piece. You've got to do some bare minimum thing to make it, which means that it's going to be a fairly unique fence compared to a lot of other parks. So I have no idea. It just it just looks pretty nice. And yeah, I'm really proud of how this part of the park, I should say, ended up turning out, because one of the things that I was really kind of not worried about, but that pathway that comes off the Red Arch Bridge and it curves around the Montpellier, whatever it's called, that roundabout ride. It loops around, and sometimes it's hard to get a nice looking wall on raised path as it slopes down, but I think that planter acts as a really nice sort of accent to the edge of the path. But you may disagree, and you're welcome to your opinions. That's why it's a creative game. It's a subjective art form. Again, in the loosest sense of the word, art form, but it's subjective nonetheless. Don't know why I'm dragging this point out too long. I mean, I've had to really slow down my talking because I realized that I'm very good at covering lots and lots of topics very, very quickly and then just leaving myself with nothing to talk about for like 20 minutes worth of footage. So I'm trying to just sort of slow the talking down a little bit. Needs to be placing some more fencing. This looks awfully similar to the footage I played earlier. Hopefully I'm not replaying it. Well, I mean, if I don't think I am, because I mean, if you're hearing me say this, then I'm definitely not, because I would have realized and then cut the footage. But for a second there, I was worried that I was just looping footage back earlier, because I don't know, the footage kind of saves in different folders on my PC and I have to try and string them together. Sometimes Shadowplay thinks it's recording the desktop, which it is technically, but it's in like not a game, and sometimes it thinks it's recording Planet Coaster. And Shadowplay automatically creates folders for different games. So if you record some footage playing Doom, it will put it in a folder called Doom. Make some footage playing Kerbal Space Program, puts it in a folder called Kerbal Space Program, etc. Sometimes it just sticks it in desktop, so I have to kind of flick between the Planet Coaster folder and the desktop folder, trying to find the next chronological piece of footage. Now, here you can see placing, I think it's called Chaos, this flat ride. I had a great idea here. You see this little path that loops, kind of curves around the footprint of the ride? That's where the exit connects. Can you see how the exit connects there? No? That's right, because I forgot to place the exit, and it took me an embarrassingly long amount of time to realize this and amend my mistake. So sorry, you're probably all going to be screaming at your computer screens / mobile devices / televisions / dialysis machines, smart refrigerators, cinemas, whatever you're watching this video on. You'll probably be screaming at it because I didn't place the entrance, and I apologize profusely. I'm not sure how this happened or why this happened, but do not worry. I do realize my mistake at some point, and we will go and amend that. Here you can see me. You may notice I just sort of cheated with the construction of this bridge. I couldn't really be bothered to build a brand new bridge from scratch here, so I just took the white suspension bridge I made a few episodes back and just cloned it across, and hey, it worked pretty well. We've got almost an exact same length of water we have to cross, and the bridge was pretty much, as in, the actual path that forms the bridge itself is pretty much the same length as the path for the other bridge, so I thought, we'll just clone the white bridge across and call it a day. And this is, of course, not the first time I've done this in Velocity Lake. The bridge that connects the plaza where the Street Fox coffee shop and the area where the red coaster is, that little bridge there was just a duplication from the bridge that is obviously connects the park entrance to the main island of the park where the Intamin Megalite sits. And this is just another thing where I couldn't be bothered to build a bridge, basically, and duplicate an existing one across, just to save a bit of time and effort, and not let this series drag on too much longer than it needs to. So you can see we're putting in a temporary sort of filler path there that connects basically the grand suspension bridge's exit to the new white suspension bridge's exit, both of those towards the actual pathway that sits around that yellow coaster. I can't believe I can't remember the name of anything. I think it was called Vertigo or Velocity. I think it's called Vertigo, the yellow coaster, because of the fact that it has a vertical lift hill and a vertical drop. Pretty scary. So Vertigo I thought was a pretty fitting name. But I do kind of generally refer to these rides by their colour. Or is that true? It's probably not actually. I think it's just the red one and the yellow one I call by their name. Was it this park where I think it was... Oh, God, I'm trying to think, was it this park or not? I think it might have been this park where I had a cutesy idea that all of the rides would just be named after a colour. So we had Red Devil. I think that's the name of the red one actually. But I think it was like Red Devil, Yellow Syndrome, Blue Demon or something, and now it's just like normal coaster names. In fact, I have no idea. I genuinely, hand on heart, have no idea what the Infinite Megalight is called. I think it might be called something like Blue Streak actually, or Blue Bolt or something like that, because it was during the time when I decided colours would be a cute thing to name rides after. So we got Red Devil, Blue Streak, whatever it was, and I think that's it. I don't think any of the other roller coasters have got names that describe their colour. Because, we're trying to put racism behind us, guys. And there is more to a ride than just its colour. So I think it's a good thing we've moved away from that. Now, you can see me make... God's sake. So there you can see me trying to, once again, tidy up the gaps left in the paths that are a thing whenever you try and build paths in Planet Coaster. So I decided to use the planter edges to form a little narrow sort of... It's like a stone sort of accent. So to the untrained eye... This looks like a mere change in paving design, which is very common in a lot of paths in real life. But of course, as you guys all know, and more experienced Planet Coaster players will probably pick up on quite quickly, is that this is not one path, but rather just kind of a fork. And there's another path that runs adjacent to it, and we can just cover up the gap between them and make it look like a continuous paved surface. Now, do you remember when we laid a slab of concrete to form the queue of the hammer swing using the temple pieces? Gotta do the same thing again for the chaos. Is that what it's called? Chaos? Whatever. And then I just offset it upward quickly just so I could then make sure just so I could see where the path itself was, so that I could make a railing that guests would actually follow and commit to. And then we could just offset the concrete slab back down once we've constructed the path barrier. And in just a second, I think, I'm just going to zoom out of the Vegas timeline quickly. Yep. In just a second... whilst I was playing the game, I must have pressed pause on the commentary, as in, pause on the recording, went and, I don't know, had some whiskey, or went to go make some food, go to the toilet, go to bed. I could have done a whole multitude of things. Either way, I stopped recording, and when it came to recording the next bit, the footage was just corrupted. So we've now done a little crossfade, and you can see this is what you've missed. So it's not quite real time. It's a little bit faster than real time speed. But as you can see, you've missed me placing the custom sign for, it's called the Forge, that ride there. I think we'd done the canopy for the hammer swings. That's all good. So it wasn't much footage lost, I admit. But there's that little golden coaster sign that covers up a little imperfection in the path. And we did the canopy, the railings for the Forge ride, and of course set the concrete slab back down. I think... we put some planters down as well to cover up some holes in the pathway there, and we placed some more fencing on the other side of the hammer swing. So a fair amount of footage missed, but hopefully not a devastating amount of footage missed. I feel like you could probably put two and two together and just picture what that footage might have looked like. Now you can see me. I've placed these trees, so I thought it might look cute to connect them all with fairy lights, which is actually easier said than done, because it's a little bit hard to use the rotation tool and have the two ends of a long piece of scenery be at the right place, particularly when it's not just one piece of scenery. Like, we had to use multiple pieces for the fairy lights. It was a little bit tricky trying to get it dead on so it would actually go through the trees. Not that a detail like that really matters. You don't have to get it perfect just when you're looking at things from a distance. You're not really going to zoom down and look at things like that. But it would annoy me if I knew it wasn't perfect. So I did spend a bit longer than I perhaps needed to, making sure those fairy lights aligned nicely. But I did play the footage back nice and fast, so it finished long ago. So I don't know why I'm still talking about it. Oh, I don't know why that memory is so profound in my mind. And now I'm just doing my standard thing of just covering all the other gaps with trees, because from the very start, I wanted Velocity Lake to be kind of in the middle of a forest. Obviously, that hasn't really been, you'd be forgiven if you didn't know that, if you just watched the episodes up till this point, because none of the episodes, or indeed the park so far, have really featured many trees and shrubbery, and the reason for this is because it's much easier to build on a barren piece of land and then put all the trees in after the fact, rather than, the other way around. It would probably get very annoying very fast if you did do it the other way around. So towards the end of the series, there'll be a few episodes where we literally just plant trees and forests and that sort of thing. And I guess, gardening spaces, little gardeners' huts, fire watch towers possibly might be a cool little thing. So no, but that's something we're going to be doing in future episodes. Again, what I said earlier, I probably shouldn't talk about future episodes, but there we go. I just did it again. Here's another sort of quasi real time. Actually, this might. It's not quite real time because the hammer swing is moving a little bit too fast for it to be quite full time speed, quite real time speed. But nonetheless, it's still fairly slow, so you can get a good picture of what we've built in the past 3 episodes, I think, if we include this one. Well, actually, it's a lot more if we're including the roller coaster in the background, which forms a really nice sort of backbone to this entire area, really. Like I said in a previous episode, I don't know which one, but this is probably my favorite area in Velocity Lake thus far. Don't know, that might change, but for me personally at this point, it is my favorite area. I'm still well under the construction of the area that surrounds the B&M Giga, so who knows, that might end up graduating to become my favorite area, but I don't think it will, to be honest. I really like the way this peninsula zone came out. What are we calling it? Thrill Seeker's Paradise? I don't know. In fact, that does fit quite well, actually, Paradise, because we've got some trees of paradise in the form of palm trees. So, I don't know, maybe Thrill Seeker's Paradise is quite a nice thing. Bit dark, though, so it could be a little bit more idyllic. That's why we're going to add some lights to these planters. I'm just using some wooden pieces and the big gothic-y style yellow lamp, putting them in the planters. I don't know what it is about this area. It all just came together, I like to think, and I hope you agree too. So yeah, just a second, we're going to have to switch the lighting to... I normally have the lighting set to 3 p.m. and then I can just quickly alter it to 3 a.m. and get it pitch black. So I can go from well lit to pitch black in fairly easily. I can't actually see what the time is set to at the moment because the preview monitor in Vegas is not that high quality. I could quickly try and bump the footage up, but I might crash the software, so I probably shouldn't. Oh, no, never mind. Playback has resumed and it seems to be going well, and I can now see that, yes, the lighting is indeed set to 3 a.m. What a waste. It wasn't really worth it, to be honest, risking everything. But, well, I say risking everything. I mean, I'm risking the last however many minutes of commentary, which is probably pretty substandard at best, mediocre at worst. But yeah, you can see me placing ever more lighting now, just to make sure we are definitely nicely and safely illuminated for this whole area. And once again, I just noticed I still haven't placed the entrance for the forge, have I? I will notice eventually, don't worry. But there. Oh, it's gone now. I was going to say, there's a very seldom seen shot of Velocity Lake at night. You can see we've got a nice illumination for the park. What I thought I'd do here, actually, I realized at this part in the footage, I just, for some whatever reason, started riding the ride. And I thought, when I say riding the ride, obviously I mean this roller coaster here. And I thought, you know what? It's been a while since the viewers got to experience this roller coaster, and obviously now it's surrounded by brand new scenery and rides. It'd be nice to showcase how the ride experience has been affected by the construction of the new surrounding area. Of course, there is no sound for the footage. Whenever I'm playing Planet Coaster, I generally listen to podcasts and stuff. So I've got no sound for you, unfortunately, but you can use your imagination, I hope. This is the ride here. And I think it looks really nice, especially this bit here as we come around this corner. We start getting really close to the trees. Whoosh, and then into the tunnel. We can just get a glimpse of the hammer swing as we descend into the under supports, which are very terrible because they're custom made. I didn't do a very good job. Wooden supports are definitely not a talent of mine, so they do leave a lot to be desired. But I think they came out serviceable nonetheless. Oh my goodness! I finally realized my boo-boo. And I decided to try and quickly add an exit. And I was like, oh, damn, where do I even put it? Because the path tool was just not playing ball. So I will speed up the footage a little bit in a second. Here I was just deforesting all of my nice foliage to try and find a spot where the entrance, or the exit, I say, would accept a path that didn't look terrible. I wanted it here because it kept on just making this weird, goofy, curved staircase rather than connect to the other path, which is what I wanted it to. I did play around a bit with it and I eventually got it to commit. There we go. I somehow managed to persuade the gods to smile upon me this blessed day, and the path actually did what I kind of wanted it to. It's not perfect, but it's definitely better than what the original suggestion the game had for me was, which is where it just turned into those little steps connecting to the end of the bridge that were not ideal. So once I finished doing some general curbing for the main path that comes off the bridge, we can add some supports for the actual exit ramp of the forge. Because at the moment, it's kind of doing the default Planet Coaster support thing where it's just kind of held up on stilts, which is all well and good in certain situations, but for situations like this, it doesn't look that great. So I tried to just make, well, I didn't try, I think I succeeded. Do or do not, there is no try, as a great man once said. So I decided to just build this sort of custom wall out of, I believe those are the scaffold pieces. I think they're from the Ghostbusters pack. They could have just been part of a generic update. Not quite sure. Either way, they are a somewhat new addition to the game. That's what I'm building this wall out of here, and we'll do the same thing for the other side of the exit ramp as well. And then I've got to zoom out again on the Vegas timeline. I don't think there's that much more stuff that needs covering on this episode. It was a long episode. Give yourself a little pat on the back. But no, all self-deprecating jokes aside, I do hope you enjoyed this episode. Like I say, it was a lot of fun building this area of the park. And it's a lot of fun, for me at least, with the satisfaction of seeing the finished product. I hope it was just as enjoyable a journey for you boys and girls at home. And when I say boys and girls, I of course mean people over the age of 13. This is not intended for children. If you are under the age of 13, please click off immediately because this is not intended for you. As viewers of my Kerbal Space Program series know, that this is a whiskey review channel where we just show a little bit of gameplay sometimes. And the most recent whiskey review was, of course, Jack Daniel's Old Number 7, a great whiskey from Kentucky. And you can check out the latest video in the whiskey review playlist that also features Kerbal Space Program gameplay on my channel. And that was that joke we can move away from. Here's a little, again, quasi real-time portion of the footage just to showcase what we've done so far. Now I'm just doing some tidying up because some of the foliage here is clipping through solid concrete, which we don't want. You can see, I remember this when I couldn't select that bit of leaf there sticking out of the concrete. So I was trying to just select that tree and nothing else, and it was really difficult. I had to keep using the multiple select tool to eventually grab it, and we got it. Everything else was just tidying up here, there, everywhere, but I think you get the gist of it. So I was about to say, I hope you enjoyed this episode, but I feel like I've just kind of made that point in the form of, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed making it. So I'm just gonna just watch it along with you. I don't think, oh, here's a little extra bit of footage there. I just had a look from the other side of the river and noticed that you could see the bins really easily. Not ideal, so I covered them up with some more opaque fencing. And that is it. I'm going to wrap up the episode there. On the left-hand side is a link to the full Velocity Lake playlist if you'd like to check out more for some reason. On the right-hand side is one chosen for you by YouTube's recommendation algorithm. In the description, you'll find links to things. Guys, thanks so much for watching my video. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, my dudes.